and buenos dias. You're watching Outsiders with Rita, Viva la Revolucion, Panahi, and Comandante Roendine. And of course, I'm El Jefe, James Morrow. Now, if you're wondering what's with all the Spanish, here's the news. Revolution is breaking out in Cuba, and no, not the dreary old communist kind either. Fed up with nearly 60 years of communist dictatorship, relentless oppression, food shortages, and an exit visa policy even stricter than Scott Morrison's, Cubans appear to be saying, basta, enough. But don't break out the Cuba Libres and cigars just yet. The Cuban people have a big fight on their hands, and if they thought they were going to get it from the Biden administration and the American left, well, afraid you've got another thing coming. Yes, there are some Americans who still believe in freedom for Cuba. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has called for American internet companies to offer their services to Cubans to get around the government's shutdown. But on the left side of politics, the same people who shed a tear when Fidel Castro died a few years back are now baffled by the ingratitude of the Cuban people to their communist overlords for all those decades of free health care and 100% literacy. And really, why shouldn't we surprise that a generation of woke leftists who grew up with posters of Che Guevara up on the pot-stained walls of their dorm rooms and share houses has no idea why Cubans might want to overthrow their dictatorship for freedom? The clueless Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, naturally, you knew she was going to come up here, has made the issue not the Cuban government's oppressive rule, but the U.S. embargo that has existed since the Kennedy administration. The Biden administration, which is in the process of all but dismantling any sort of effective border between America and Mexico, has declared that it will not take Cuban refugees who sail the treacherous 90 miles of shark-infested sea to get to Florida, and will instead send them back to Cuba or a third country. Funny, I thought the left loved refugees, but maybe not so much when they come carrying dangerous viruses like a love of freedom and a hatred for communism and socialism. But the weirdest reaction had to come from Black Lives Matter, which really ought to rename itself Black Lives Matter, but not if they are being oppressed by a communist anti-American dictatorship. That outfit, which regular watchers of this segment will recall was founded and is run by avowed Marxists, issued a statement about the uprisings in Cuba this week. Like others, they chose not to mention the communist regime and instead blamed everything on the embargo, and amazingly said that the Cuban people, in the form of the communist government, are being punished for their, quote, sovereignty and self-determination. Quote, Cuba has historically demonstrated solidarity with oppressed peoples of African descent, BLM said, before concluding that they, quote, look to President Biden not to help people overthrow the government, but rather to end the embargo, which they called a, quote, blatant human rights violation. Now, once upon a time, the possible fall of a murderous dictatorship opposed to everything America stood for would be cheered by both right and sensible people on the left. Now, not so much. It's a clarifying moment when the scales fall from the eyes. From the Biden administration to Black Lives Matter, you can see whose side they're really on.